Welcome to the Sisterhood Collective podcast, where we empower women to break barriers, overcome limiting beliefs, and achieve true success. I'm your host, Laurie Drummond, entrepreneur and founder of 5 successful businesses. Join me as I share proven strategies, interview inspirational leaders, and provide behind-the-scenes insights to help you level up in your business, career, and in life. Because together, we can get further faster. Okay, let's dive in. So today I'm really keen to talk a little bit about what do you do when you're feeling this overwhelm that kind of almost cripples you from wanting to get up and go or getting up and doing anything. And I wasn't crippled to the fact that I couldn't do anything last week, but I found myself in a position where I was literally with my besties doing the one thing that I love to do, which is quality time with my people. But I lost myself for a moment and I lost my way. And when I returned back to Brisbane, I lost my way a little bit further and I felt a little bit, I guess, unhappy, a little bit down, going, what's next? Where are we going? Blah, blah, blah. Even though a week ago, I actually had all the clarity in the world. But to start this whole process, like if you think about it, we are so busy just in general. Like I think about my life right now, like I am, running a couple of businesses, you've got people that you're responsible for and they rely on you for either direction or, paying their income or taking the dog for a walk because she has to go each, a few times a day, all those sorts of things. But there's these responsibilities that you have to do each day. But what do you do when you don't feel like doing them? If I go a little bit further into that, I suppose, when something else, some other responsibility actually lands on your lap or an added stress lands on your lap, our resilience these days is, I guess I don't feel it's as strong as it used to be, but I can't talk for anybody else. But so many people get overwhelmed by the littlest things these days, or just from that one extra responsibility that gets thrown in their lap. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about how do you deal with that and, find that center, find that calm to be able to continue on. Because I can tell you what, there's these days where I sit there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got 9 one-on-one clients today. Then I've got a director's meeting. And then I'm supposed to be going out for dinner. And then tomorrow morning I'm back up at 6 o'clock and this has got to happen. And I sit there and go, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to get through the day. And then the day actually comes and it just seamlessly rolls together and I handle it fine because it's my bread and butter and I mentor every day and, that stuff is easy. But the day before I'm like, oh my God, it's the biggest day in the world. I'm doing so much stuff. And you're not really. It's just a work day. It's just another day of stuff. And to be fair, I don't even feel like I'm working sometimes, but because I love what I do so, so much. But I guess when you have these days, you literally plan it out. You've got a schedule in place. And then there's just that one extra thing that puts this extra added pressure on you. And it's the domino effect, right? The cascading effect that occurs after that, which really can ruin your day. The problem is we can lose ourselves in this journey. And what I want to do is give you a few tips on finding the pathway, I guess, to joy again or to happiness again when this sort of turmoil or this cascading dominoing effect, this, negativity and Debbie Downer stuff starts happening for you. How do you change this around? So today I've brought a friend to come onto the podcast. Her name is Joleen. She's from the US. I've known her for a few years. She's a pretty incredible businesswoman. She's a powerhouse. She is a mother of 3. She's juggling several businesses. She's got the children. Basically, she's juggling so much every day. And obviously, every day is not the most amazing, of course. That's life. That's part of it. But I wanted to bring her on because she does juggle quite a lot of things. And I wanted to get her way of dealing with so much going on. How does she deal with when something extra lands in her lap? How does she get through the day? And then basically, what are her non-negotiables? One of the things that I was I've just been away for a week, right? And I've been away with my best friends. And then I come home from that, but I went flat while I was there. I'm like, how does this happen? I am with my absolute besties doing exactly what I want to be doing. But little Loza had a moment where she was just flat and not happy for whatever reason. And I don't even know why, because I should have been. Anyway, I come back to Brisbane and I jump on a mentor call, and I'm speaking to a client, and that client starts to talk and nothing's really going right now. And I get that. We all have those moments where we can't see the forest through the trees, right? Things they're just not going well. And I'm like, mate, with you right now, we just need to focus on you. And I said to this person, you need to work out what lights your fire, because right now you're lost, right? And so many of us get into that place because we are so busy. We've got so much going on. We're juggling so many things. But for this person, I said, you need to write down 2 things for me that fill your cup, light your fire, whatever that is. And I said, so tonight, I want you to send those to me. And I said, and let me tell you this, you're not alone, because I literally feel the same right now. I'm trying, although it's only been a couple of days for me, I'm like, I still felt so lost. Like, I'm like, what am I doing? Where am I going? What am I doing? Even though a week ago it was so clear. Anyway, so I said, you send that to me. And then, you know what? I'm actually going to do this exercise myself and sit back and just actually reflect for a second and work out what lights my fire. And then I'm going to reply to you, and then we're accountable for each other for actually doing this exercise. And so I thought it would be really nice to talk to you, right? Because Joleen, you juggle so many things and nobody's life is perfect. I get that, right? We do the best we can, but you must have these moments as well, because you're juggling kids, you've got businesses, you've got commitments, you plan out, and you're a very good planner and you're quite organized, but you're also quite good at managing time. So how do you do this? And what do you do in a moment like that, where you just sit there and go, where am I? What am I doing? Or even, those moments when one extra thing lands in your lap and you're like, oh, geez. And it's like almost your whole world goes crashing down, because it's like this overwhelm completely rushes through your blood and through your body. What do you do?
Well, and this is pretty timely, because this is something I actually felt in the last month as well. So I don't know what's happening this time of year, but it seems to be something common. What I do is something very similar to the exercise that you had your mentee do and the person you were talking to. I go back and refocus on my priorities. Right. And so usually when I start to feel this way, it's because I'm straying away from my non-negotiables, my things that light me up, my things that center me, my things that kind of keep me on that track. And they're simple. They're very simple. And usually it's when I try and get too complicated that I start to feel this sense of, I almost call it like being lost. I guess that's the best way to put it. So for me, it's going back and resetting, usually a routine. Right. So something as simple as, when am I going to get my 30-minute walk in, which is one of my non-negotiables, 30 minutes to myself, to be quiet, no work, no phones. And I usually have to remind myself to put my phone away, not check emails, not anything, but 30-minute walk and 4 workouts a week. And again, when I find myself a little bit kind of lost, it's because I'm not taking care of myself enough. Right. The other thing that I usually have gotten away from is planning my day out. Something super simple, but when I'm on vacation, I don't take my planner with me, which is usually a big mistake, because I come back from that vacation and I'm like, wait a minute, what was I working on? Where am I at? What was my day like? So for me, I go back to, all right, every night before I go to bed, writing down what my day is going to look like. When am I going to get everything done? Because sometimes it's that fear of, am I going to be able to fit everything in, that causes that anxiety. And when I see that, okay, you've got this. You have your day planned, you have your calendar planned, it's all going to get done, then I feel a lot better. So those are some of my top 3 things: my daily walk, my workouts, my self-care, basically, whatever it is you choose for yours. And then making sure that my day is planned so that I know what I'm going to take on the next day.
I know you're quite good with time management and scheduling, and because you've got 3 children, a husband, 3 businesses, what are some of the, I guess, strategies that you're using to make that as clear as, I guess, as easy as possible for you guys to stay in routine and manage all that stuff?
We have a shared family calendar. You can use any app. There's not one in particular. We just have one where we can see everybody's schedule, and it blocks things off on everybody's schedule. So I can see all my husband's appointments so that I know when I have the kids. He can see mine, so he knows when he has the kids. while we do communicate with each other, that actual visual of, hey, this is where we are at any given time really seems to help both of us. Even adding my kids' things on it, my teenagers' things, we integrate all of those together. Everybody thinks, oh, you've got it all together, you remember everything. No, I'm just really, really good at writing it all down and making sure that I can see it at one time. And then on top of that, in addition to writing it down, using task reminders. This is one of the biggest lessons that I worked with one of my clients. He was really big on, I should be able to remember this. I should be able to remember it all. Why can't I remember it all? And I got really frustrated. You don't have to remember it all. The point is that it has to get done. It doesn't matter how it gets done. It's that you have to remind yourself. So I use a lot of sticky notes. I'm old school with that. And also task reminders on my phone too.
Do you know what? I've got so many Post-it notes everywhere that even when I went to Canberra last week, I've got like a pile, let's go a centimetre thick of written ones that I bring just in case I need to go and flick through something. And even when I go across to Abu Dhabi, I take those Post-it notes with me because I'm like, I've got to review those. And I never do, by the way. Post-it notes are a good tool, I think, as well.
Very much. Yeah, I have multiple colors for multiple topics even. It might be a little overboard, but that's how it works for me.
Hey, look, I've got a question for you. Last week in the podcast, I brought up a topic and it was like, it's because I'm seeing a lot of people feel this way, but I've been there myself multiple times. Or I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, this is not the life that I wanted. Or this, in this moment right now, this is not where I want to be, either the situation or whatever. And we talk about, we just had a real conversation. I just had a real conversation with Tegan and Lauren about this sort of stuff. But I'd be interested to know, because I imagine you've probably been there too. What did you do in that moment? Have you got a story to share where you've been in a moment like that and how you got out of it?
Yeah, I guess it goes back to the last couple of weeks. The same thing. Like I looked around and like, how did I get this busy? How do I have this much on my plate? How do I have this many responsibilities? And refocusing on my priorities, which for me, my number one priority is my family and my children. And being there and flexible and spending time with them, not being, the person working late at night and getting home when they go to bed. So I take a look at all of my priorities, everything I'm doing, and really ask myself, does it serve the purpose that I want, right? Am I pushing for the sake of pushing, trying to grow things for the sake of trying to grow them? Or does it actually get me to where I want to be in life? Sometimes that's, why are you doing this? This isn't going to take you where you want to be. And I think that's where I was in the last 3 weeks. I found myself doing things for the sake of, well, I should be doing it. Other people are doing it. I want to move forward like everybody else is moving forward, when in reality, they don't have the life I have and they don't want the life I want. So I shouldn't be doing the same thing. So I literally write down and actually physically write it down as an exercise, all of the things that I'm responsible for. Whether that is my kids, my businesses, each of my businesses even. Does this get me to my goal of spending more time with my kids and being around and being present and providing them the experiences that I want them to have? If it doesn't, I figure out a way to get out of it. And I don't mean get out of it like get out of it, I don't want to do it, but remove myself from the situation, not work on it anymore. And that was what I did last week. And I'll have to be honest, like my anxiety level, my stress level is a third maybe of what it was last week, just by doing that. And even though I haven't removed all of the responsibilities, having a plan to move myself back to being more centered has really helped.
So you said your non-negotiables. Sorry, I won't take too much of your time.
No, that's fine.
But you said like your non-negotiables was 4 workouts per week and a 30-minute walk per day.
Yep, those are my self-care non-negotiables.
They're your self-care non-negotiables. But what happens on that moment that, I was just thinking of something that happened to me. The remote control wouldn't work for me to get in the car into the garage, which means I had no access to the house, which means I couldn't get to the next appointment and the next appointment, blah, blah, blah. And it threw me off time, meetings, all sorts of things. When something like that happens and it cascades, it has a cascading effect, like anything could happen to you that day. Maybe you get a sick child. You get called, you got to come pick up Brinley, or, the basketball time for the other child changes, or your husband gets sick and he can't do what needs to be done at work that day. Something happens that prevents you from doing your non-negotiable. How do you navigate that? That's what I want to know. Like, What are you doing to get that non-negotiable to either happen, or how do you talk yourself through the fact that you can't do that day or whatever?
So my first go-to is always, can I rearrange my day to make sure that still happens? Right. And maybe that means for me a 30-minute walk after my kids are in bed. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be in the morning, it doesn't have to be in the day. I need that time that's quiet. If for some reason I can't find 30 minutes, I'll circle back and say, okay, well, something is better than nothing. Can I just take 5 minutes and step outside and have a little bit of quiet and some breathing room, knowing that the next day is typically going to be better. We always talk about, because I own a gym, I always talk to my clients, 80% of the time, 90% of the time, you want to be moving forward and on the right track. Life is going to happen the rest of the time, and giving yourself grace and the ability to do that. And I know nobody can see me, but speaking of kids, my 5-year-old is sitting on my lap making funny faces at the screen right now. So talk about non-negotiables, but bringing myself back to that. Okay, you've done the best you can. You have tried to come up with a plan. You've taken that time, even if it's not 30 minutes. And then it sounds like the simplest thing, but just going in a room for 1 minute and just quietly breathing, right? I think sometimes we ignore the simple pieces of it. And so when I realize, all right, this isn't going to happen, I'm not going to get 4 workouts in this week. I'm at the end of the week, I've gotten 2. Or I'm not going to get a 30-minute walk. It's 9:30 at night and my kid's still running around the house screaming. Go in another room and take a minute and recenter.
Awesome.
You do the best you can, and the best you can is not going to always be what you want it to be, but you have to be happy with yourself for the days that your best effort isn't 100%. And I think we're really hard on ourselves sometimes, like, oh, I didn't get to do that today, that was on my list, and then we beat ourselves up for the rest of the day instead of saying, okay, this is the best I can do today, I'm going to go with it, and I'm not going to let it throw the rest of my day off. And that was a really hard lesson for me to learn.
What actually motivates you though? Because I've seen that you can get up sometimes at 3:45 or something in the morning and go down to the hotel gym when you're traveling just to get I think it's your 30-minute walk, your non-negotiable in, but what motivates you to get out of bed? Like I had to motivate myself this morning. How do you do it? What's your why, Joleen?
My why is that if I don't take care of myself and my non-negotiables, I'm a really bad parent. I'm a really bad spouse. I'm a really bad business owner. And I don't want to be bad at any of them, right? I have days I'm not going to be great, but what motivates me is that I know these things work for me. And when I put them on the back burner and when I don't do them, sorry. And when I put them on the back burner and when I don't do them, I'm not good at anything else. So if I want to be good and want to be present and want to be there, which I do, then I have to do those things. And if that means 3:30 in the morning, it's 3:30 in the morning.
Yes, you're a good woman. You're so disciplined. It's really quite impressive. You're obviously driven, right? You're driven to something. And, when you're driven, it gives you that motivation to just get up and go. It's very admirable. Well,
everybody looks at it and you said I'm so driven, but there's those days it doesn't happen, right? It doesn't happen for everybody. Like you were talking about last week. I felt the same way last week. And I think that's what made me feel off is I didn't feel driven. I was sleeping in. I was getting up at 7:00 when my kids got up. I was missing that time that I needed to feel better. And so it may sound like I'm driven to do this, I'm driven to do that, but the reality is that I'm not very driven and I'm not very good at anything unless I take that time for myself.
So I guess at the end of the day, you can't really control how you feel. We can't control these emotions. We're going to feel how we're going to feel, but you can choose how you're going to act next and what you're going to do about it. So I wanted to give you a tangible exercise that you could do to pull yourself, I guess, out of this negative space or this down space for 2 reasons. Firstly, I really believe you need to take a moment of self-reflection. So you need to reflect. And I want you to write down 2 or 3 things that genuinely light your fire. The activities or the moments that make your heart sing, they bring a smile to your face. It could be quality time. It could be hobbies that you like. Maybe it's gaming. Maybe it's flower arrangements, some sort of creativity, photography. or, contributing to a cause that you really feel deeply about, like helping out at that soup kitchen. But be honest with yourself. And, maybe even talk to someone, like if you've got a partner, go, honey, what do you see that lights my fire? Because getting, their aspect and perception of what lights your fire might be different, and it might be wrong, it might be not yours, but still, I feel like sometimes we can't see it. So you may need some help with this bit. But the whole point of this is to align this with your authentic wants, like authentic needs. Okay, so step 1, reflect and identify what really lights your fire. Step 2 is prioritize. Out of those few things that you've written down, let's prioritize them into our schedule, into our calendar. And like maybe that is literally scheduling them in, if that's what you have to do. Or if you have a bad day and it doesn't work out right, can you still fit that into that day or that week to make sure that, it's a priority? Because we don't prioritize ourselves enough. But try to put them into your schedule somehow, allocate that time. And step 3, make this commitment to yourself. Be consistent with carrying out these activities. Whether that's, having some quiet time every single night, whether that's going out and meeting friends for coffee on a weekly basis or a fortnightly basis. But establish some sort of routine with this so that it ensures that you are regularly lighting this fire of yours. Make it the priority, because this is for you. At the beginning of this podcast, I said that I was speaking to a client and I said to that client, you need to work out what lights your fire, and I want you to send that to me. So I made them accountable. I said, but you know what? I'm going to do the same thing because I'm feeling a little bit flat myself, and I'm going to write back to you. And I did. And let me tell you, what I came up with was what really lights my fire. And I decided in that moment that these are my non-negotiables. These are things that are important to me, and I need to make these the priority in my life. And let me share with you what those were. So the first one was quality time with people. For me, I love my people, whether it's my besties, my family, or whoever. Like, they inspire me, they make me laugh, they're a positive influence, and I need that. Like, I love being around that. It really lights my fire. So basically, my love language is quality time. So I make this a priority. It actually literally recharges me, and it balances me as well. My second thing was, I want the freedom to choose what I do with my time. Hence why I create my own schedule. I manage my time to my needs, not necessarily to someone else's needs unless they need me. Sometimes I have to make the sacrifices because I have this, unwavering commitment to stay true to my path. I don't want the distractions all the time. I'm pretty dedicated, and I don't want to necessarily deviate from my goals and my aspirations. So if I have the freedom to choose what I do with my time, that will help me get closer to those goals and aspirations. And the third thing I realized, particularly on the weekend, as I haven't trained in a while, is that I need movement for my body and for my mind. So I need to be physically active, just for my, like I said, physical health, but also my mental well-being. And I need to be consistent with this a little bit more, even on the challenging days. So I ask you, what are your non-negotiables? Take a moment to reflect, to really work out what makes you happy, what brings, light to your fire, what inspires you. Is it with your family? Is it certain passions, quality time? Is it your health? What is that for you? And then make it a priority and put it into your schedule. I think it's really important to just highlight that you're human, right? We're all human, and it's okay to feel overwhelmed from time to time. We absolutely all go through it, all of us, and frequently. But that's okay. And I want you to know that that's okay. You can't manage everything perfectly. None of us have, as you can tell with some of the stories that we've shared with you on previous podcasts and also a little bit tonight. But, it's okay to ask for help. I've given you a little exercise that would be really quite helpful to do as well. But just remember, you have the choice to change and to make change, and you can empower yourself to make those choices to prioritize your happiness. So take a deep breath, embrace the chaos in your life, and remember that it's okay to have that. Embrace this journey and discover like the beautiful balance between fulfilling responsibilities, but also nourishing yourself and making yourself the priority. Thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward to chatting to you again soon. Thank you for joining us on the Sisterhood Collective podcast. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And if you want to be the first to hear what is new at Sisterhood Collective, you can find out more on our Instagram, or you can sign up to receive our weekly newsletter and let the good times continue to roll. Now it's time to turn your clear vision into bold action. I'm Laurie Drummond, your host, and until next time, keep striving to live that best life. Take care, and we'll see you soon.